Good evening, folks. If it's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, you know what time it is. It's time for Off the Record, the Real Talk podcast with Allie Braswell Jr. I'm your host, Allie. It's so good to see you all here. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel or you're listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're on iHeart, Spotify, Podbean, or you're just streaming this across Apple Podcasts, I'm so glad you allowed me to have 30 minutes in your ear. This episode is the final episode of our Pivots in Life and Career series, and where we've talked about over the past few weeks, what does it mean to change? Over those few weeks, we've heard from voices that didn't just change careers, they changed directions, they changed values, and ultimately they changed their life and others' lives along the way. This episode brings it all home with the pivot being personal. The pivot is personal, y'all. It's lessons from the journey is what we're going to talk about, whether that's going back to the first episode where we talked with Miss Janina Hogans of Hogan's Heroes. That's a consulting company, y'all. You need to call her if you've got policy, if you're in healthcare and you're looking for somebody to be innovative thinking and help you grow your organization to serve better. You call on Janina Hogans. Shout out to Janina for giving us time out of her busy schedule. But if you remember in that, we were talking about pivoting it with a pay cut. In that, she shared where it was after a pursuit that the current organization that she had spent so much time with and grown, which was a major healthcare organization in the world, they said, no, you couldn't go through that door and take on that academic study. So guess what, folks? She made a daring decision to leave the position. You know, we talk about that later on when we talk to Nicholas Smith, and we said, is your position holding you hostage? Well, Janina showed that her position wasn't holding her hostage. She was able to plan and put together a plan of execution where she went on and took on a major endeavor, attended Georgetown University as a national fellow, and now is obtaining her master's in policy. Not to mention, she already has a master's in healthcare administration. You know, and what she did was talk through her journey and her decision-making process to make that pivot, to take that pay cut. And, you know, she went from a very nice salary to a stipend. She had to adjust life. She had to adjust the things. And sometimes we have to put in delayed gratification when we go through that so that she can make the investment in herself by attending Georgetown University and graduating with her master's in policy management. I just want to pause and say, Janina, if you're listening, thank you so much for taking time out to share your story. See, I believe that when we share our stories, people learn from the experiences that we've had, and they're able to move ahead and get to the next level, maybe even see themselves in some of it, of what we have to go through. You know, I even shared in the opening of this, in my first introduction of this series, that I went through a pivot. That, you know, being the CEO of my own organization, it's one thing to have a product, but then not have a market. I was in the diversity, equity, inclusion space as a consultant that had helped build a organization's program to where it was the 17% better than the industry standard. Only to step away and say, I want to go help others do this, to do the real thing of building environments where people felt like they belong, where they felt respected, appreciated, and valued. And that was everyone. It didn't have a particular category that it was looking at, but it said, let's make sure that we create an environment where everybody can come to the table. Guess what, folks? As you know, with the national narrative, that narrative switched and people began to vilify the DEI acronym for diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm going to say it because the key thing is that wasn't the truth. It isn't the truth. And I'm telling you from this off the record conversation that diversity, equity, inclusion was all about creating a playing field and making it equitable in the workspace in terms of pay and opportunity and access. And that's what it was about. It didn't leave anyone behind. It actually said, come along, lock arms with me, and let's run together. And, you know, I loved the work that I was doing, but the pivot came when the national narrative switched and said, DEI was wrong, DEI is bad, DEI is woke ideology. I don't even know where they get that from, because if you're from the South, like I was raised here in Florida and grew up understanding in the Black community that when my grandparents, my grandmother told me to stay woke, it was to stay woke, keep my head on a swivel so I wouldn't end up being strange fruit. Now, I'm not sure where others decided to derail that and label it into things that it wasn't, but I don't subscribe to or believe in what they call woke ideology. I believe in humanity. I believe in putting people first, caring for them, and leading through that. But my pivot came when I had to reorganize my organization, my life. And I told you, I even went out and took up Uber driving. It was just great to be able to plug into people as I was working on other books, getting ready for other speaking engagements. Let me put some time and sweat equity into just doing something to get me out of the house. Folks, I'm here to tell you that pivot has been amazingly fruitful in terms of meeting people from all walks of life that I would not maybe have had the opportunity to meet. But I'm here to tell you, it was just so moving to be able to meet people. I've met CEFOs of healthcare organizations. I've met doctorates in analysis that are out here making a difference in the city that I live within. And I've met people who are just going through trying to make sure that they get to the job that they have so that they can continue to live the life that they're striving for. I'm here to tell you through that pivot, I've learned that we got to put humanity back into being human. We got to care about, respect people from all walks of life because you never know where they are on their journey or where you might run and intersect with their journey. You know, as we talked through that, we talked about trading salary for growth. That's where we actually talked with Janina through that piece. But now she's going to be in a position to where she's launching her own consulting group and going to go back and help in the healthcare field around how to write the right policies that affect and allow us to overcome healthcare disparities and be able to serve people from all walks of life. Our next guest up was none other than Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, talking with me about how to navigate through change when it's coming, because you know it's coming. We talked about his Navy career. Shout out to my brother, Enrique Acosta Gonzalez, who's also a podcast host. Folks, go listen, go look, and go find Enrique and listen to his podcast as well. But he dropped some golden nuggets in there, folks, when he talked about that what he wasn't sure of was the uncertainty. You know, and when he said uncertainty is a phase that we all go through, boy, was that enlightening to understand that no matter the change, no matter the challenge, no matter when it comes, we're all going to experience some type of uncertainty. And what I want to share with you is the tidbit that he said, as long as you have what? A plan, you can get through the uncertainty and move to the next level in your life. Your life journey is not going to be a just straight yellow brick road, folks. I don't know who may have told you that, but that's not going to happen. It actually happens when you get a chance to just go out and live. Change is going to happen, and how you manage it and how you embrace it and how you come out on top of it is by having a plan of execution. Enrique shared how in the Navy, he was up for E9, Master Chief, which is the highest enlisted rank in the United States Navy. And in doing that, he knew that he was up against the zone, but he thought if he didn't make it, he would just fall into a larger zone and be competitive. Well, he said the Navy made the decision for him, and they brought about the change when they told him, congratulations, Senior Chief, we're retiring. And he said, how do I navigate this? He had a partner. So sometimes your community is not only how we think about the house or the street that we live on. Your community is your spouse, your children, your uncles, your aunts, your friends that come together and help you create a plan. His saving grace was his lovely wife, who already had a plan of action that if we got to go through this, we're going to achieve and we're going to get ahead. And now at Triad Leadership, he is teaching other leaders how to manage through that. So again, a shout out to Enrique. The golden nugget from uncertainty is have a plan. Take your time, walk through it, make sure it's what you need to do, and understand what your options are. Once you lay out the options, then begin to walk through them and try to navigate. What are the outcomes that you're expecting? One of the best things that I can share with you is get a journal and write it down. When you write it down, it becomes cemented into the universe. If you don't believe me on the spirituality, But writing it down allows you to take a catalog of what you're thinking. And when you write that down and you begin to go back over it, it helps you create the game plan for success. It's something I've used in my career that has helped me. Wrote a book about it called Rekindling the Passion, Restoring the Joy and Purpose to Your Life. And it was all about learning how to journal and asking myself some key questions. I encourage you to go out to Amazon, pick it up, take a look at it. But if you're not ready to start journaling and writing, that's not the book for you, because you're going to finish authoring it with your story. It's so important, though, and it's so impactful that I encourage you to go out and get it. Take the journey. If you're stuck in mid-career trying to figure out where you're going, if you're that young professional that's not having the passion or the energy for what you're doing, rekindling the passion can be a joy to help you reconnect. It's out on Amazon and at Barnes and Nobles. Please feel free to go out and purchase it. One of the other things, though, that Enrique talked about was just his faith. Faith is a key enabler. Faith defined is having belief in something that you cannot see. When you believe that your positive outcomes are going to come on the other side of the change or the pivot that you're going through, you're already setting yourself up for success. So I hope you learned a great deal from Enrique Acosta Gonzalez. Look him up on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Hit him up if you need additional notes. He's also a leadership coach, and we're glad to help and work with you. We love to partner on that because we're both Maxwell trained leadership coaches. The other one that we talked about is your comfort versus your calling. That conversation was with the illustrious Nicholas Smith. So glad that Nicholas could join us, talk about his story from the time I met him almost 18 years ago as a young college student at Hampton University in the School of Architecture, doing just a great job, came through and competed positively. And how about this, folks? Landed his first job out of college as a Disney Imagineer. He helped to create all types of buildings and different edifices that would be in our parks and resorts. I was so proud of him. But one of the things that he honored me with was saying thank you for being that big brother that helped him navigate through the journey at Disney Imagineering. I remember meeting them, the incredible team, as they were a part of Disney's Imaginations design competition. I had the pleasure and privilege of running that program for a number of years while as a member of WDI and Walt Disney Parks and Resorts. But Nick came through just like many have and found a career. So, folks, he was in what? Dream job territory, right? But he kept doing something on Sundays, call it the Sunday sketch, where he would capture ideas because his art was incredible. He would capture ideas, and the spark that helped him get to the next level was when he captured the image of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a hoodie during the incident of the Trayvon Martin murder. When he put that out there, things just took off. And guess what? His partner in life, his wife, said, Nicholas, you really should embrace your art. He would take that and go on now. And as you know, if you've seen some of his work, it's been incredible. He captured the Rio girls from the Olympics in Brazil. He's actually the illustrator and has been a part of creating the incredible movie series with Marvel, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And most recently, he was voted as #1 best-selling picture book creator with his work around the 1619 Project, Born on the Water. That hasn't stopped him, though, folks. Just came out with a new book. I want to push that out there. Go get the history of we. It's all about our origination as human beings back in Africa. Everything comes from that continent that is human. And he captures that so eloquently in the history of we. That's his latest book. I know he's working on something new. But what we learned from Nick was you may be incredible in one point of your life and with the skills that you have, but you may have a calling or a passion. And sometimes comfort keeps us trapped from going after what we're passionate about or what that calling is in our life. So I want to encourage you, where you may be out there right now, is where are you when it comes to life? Where are you in your life right now? What potential pivot are you seeing that You're still negotiating with you on your purpose and waiting for permission to pivot to what you really are meant to do. Many people, I think there's a statement out there said many are called, but few are chosen. And I will tell you that if you have a passion, if you have a skill, the key thing that I think we learned from Nicholas Smith was his consistency. Every Sunday, every Sunday, he produced a sketch and he published it and he shared it and he put it in social media. And it became the catalyst for what would be the rest of the illustrations and the great work he's done, whether it's a Captain America illustrated book or, like I said, the other ones that I've shared. It's just so many and so numerous. But go look up nicholassmithart.com, take a look, drop him a note on LinkedIn. If you're listening, Nicholas, thank you for gifting me with your time, your talent, and your energy to share your story, because I'm sure someone in that listening to that podcast was able to say, you know what, I have this thing I've been dabbling with, but I think I'm going to actually do it. I've got a good friend that right now is working on a product that he's actually taking something that he's used and created a useful piece and apparatus for it to be able to be housed in or sit upon, let's say that. And I'm wishing him the best, because you know what? It wasn't being an inventor and creating something that he needed and now turning it into a product was not what his path was. He was in public relations, business development, and just doing great things. But I'm so proud of him, shouting you out. You know who I'm talking about. If you're listening to the podcast, you'll know. But you'll see that he's taking something that he needed. He put his creative crafts together. He pivoted and took himself away from business development and went into the world of inventing and designing and manufacturing. And he's coming out with a new product that he's already looking at is going to grow 7 figures. And so I'm so proud of him for staying true to his vision, following his calling to be an inventor and being able to step away from what others may think you should do to go off and chase the ideas that you want to chase in life. So when you're thinking about all this, folks, what I'm talking about is the power of moving ahead. Nicholas showed that with creating Artivism, where he's an architect, he's an artist, and he's an activist. I love it. He's using his work to be able to go out and have a voice for those who don't have a voice, to be able to stand in movements and use his art to express and share. You heard me talking about woke. One of the greatest pieces he's done was when everyone was attacking DE&I and woke, he put up a bulletin board. I'm sorry, a chalkboard with a little boy, and I call that little Nicholas, standing in front of it and defining what it meant to him, that word. Talking about references. It's out there. Go look it up. You can see it. But what a powerful way to stand for what he believes in, stand up and have a voice, and make sure that the Black voice isn't lost in our communities, that our history isn't erased, and that it means something to be able to stand up for it. And I'm here to tell you that was just huge nuggets and reflections. So from the beginning, we've talked about reflections on leadership with Enrique. We've talked about pivoting for a purpose, not worrying about the paycheck. And we pivoted to where we talked about how Nick followed his calling and has created Artivism, is out there just using his art as an artivist to be able to communicate, share his feelings, and express the feelings and thoughts of some that may not have the voice or have been marginalized. As we close out the Pivot series of Off the Record, I want to take a moment to go back on the stuff that we've learned from each powerful episode. I hope I've covered them clearly. If you got a thought about it, go to our Off the Record, the Real Talk Podcast Facebook page and spend some time there. Drop me a note, drop me a comment, suggest a topic. Because what is Off the Record with Allie all about? It really is having conversations to help you live a better life, to help you move through your career, to help you lead better, putting people first, being a high road leader, as John Maxwell would say. The key thing is go out there and get involved and learn how you can use your passion to actually become your primary source of income. I'm here to tell you folks, Nicholas was doing well. He was an 11-year Imagineer, and then he went into the world of art where he belonged, where his calling was. He's making it. Enrique, you thought about the military was the career path. That's where you wanted to be. He rose high, but then he pivoted, and now he's leading his own leadership organization. Janina Hogan shared where, again, I talked about her being in a major healthcare organization, but now pivoting to run her own company, Hogan's Heroes. The whole thing is if you can figure out what your passion is and learn how to lean into it, you can achieve everything that you've been thinking about. But before pivoting, one of the key things, one of the golden nuggets out there that I want to share with you is before you pivot, folks, the best person in the world in a particular field, find them and chase the blue rabbit. Chase the rabbit. If there's if there's a thing that you want to do, there's someone doing it well. Go out there and give them their props. Follow them. Understand how they're doing it. Dissect it and learn how you can leverage what they know to get to where you want to go in life. A lot of people ask me or come to me when they're making key decisions in life, and they say, how do I do that? How do I do what you do? How have you been so successful? And I have to tell you, it's been the power of relationships and people pouring into me and sharing and just giving of themselves and letting me know that I was worthy of the gift of their time, talent, and treasure. And that's what I want to do with Off the Record, the Real Talk podcast. Going into next month, what we're going to be doing is actually starting next week. We're going to begin to unravel my newest book, Engage, Invest, Grow, The Power of Relationships. When I think about it, it's the Bob Billingsleys who poured into me. It's the Jacob Stewarts from the Chamber when I was a young nonprofit neophyte trying to figure it out who poured into me, or Ron Oates over at Scouting who said, I'll teach you how to fundraise. Because, by the way, at that time, I think he was raising high six figures, almost seven figures annually at just one of his events to fund Scouting in Central Florida. As I close this out, what I want to begin to do is ask you, what are some of the pivots that you are going to have to go through? What is the biggest pivot lesson this year? What is your biggest pivot lesson? Drop me a line, folks. Go to LinkedIn, find me there, drop a note in there, go to Off the Record, the Real Talk Podcast Facebook page. Hit me up on Facebook. Drop me a note at otrwithallie@gmail.com. Share with me. I would love to give you feedback. I promise if you write me or post on one of my pages, I'm going to take the time to honor you with the gift and respect of giving back. One of the things as we build this out, they'll have access. We're going to be creating opportunity for a community to grow and have additional access coaching. We're even going to come up with a hot seat for Off the Record. Our topics are going to be not only just about life's pivots and changes, for example, or building positive relationships, which is the next series, but we're going to talk about some of the current things going on in the world and hear your voice and help bring experts, leaders, people with knowledge, people with compassion, respect, appreciation, and empathy, or in my new framework, I call it CARE, compassion, appreciation, respect, and empathy. So as we all pour into giving back to each other. My whole goal with all this, folks, is to put more humanity back into being human, to have those conversations that you don't often get a chance to be a part of. Just like, sitting in with Nicholas Smith, or whether it was Enrique or others that will be on the show, it's having a glimpse at someone who's doing well or some topic that needs to have a further exploration of the topic, the one that may happen behind the closed door. We're going to have it right here on Off the Record, the Real Talk podcast. I'm so proud to be here with you and share. I want to thank my lovely bride, LaShanta Braswell, for encouraging me to get in front of this camera and talk to you and my entire family. Folks, it's a tough time right now, but I want to encourage you that no matter the change or the pivot that's coming at your life, what I want you to do is just continue to do the things that you've been doing all this time. Continue to make a difference. Continue to seek the better side of things and continue to pour into your journey. Because when you do that, I truly believe the outcomes are going to be immeasurable. You'll be able to attain the things and dreams that you've always wanted. And that is my purpose. My goal is to touch over 5 million people before I leave this earth and help put some caring, appreciation, respect, and appreciation back in their lives. My name's Allie Braswell, and if it's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday, it's always going to be time for Off the Record, the Real Talk podcast. I'll see you next week with a new topic. Remember, we're going to start exploring Engage, Invest, Grow, the blueprint for building powerful relationships. I'm looking forward to having incredible people on that show with me over those next 4 to 5 episodes. And we'll join you right here at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.